Physical media in 2025. Everyone seems to be saying one of two things regarding it. It's either completely dead or it's totally alive and revived and doing well. But let's be honest here. Are you really buying movies, CDs, or records in 2025? Well, the likelihood is probably yes, because this video was recommended to you and you have some level of interest in physical media. But the average consumer, are you really going to a store and buying movies anymore? Because honestly, you don't see movies in Targets or Kmarts anymore. I mean, hell, you don't even see Kmarts anymore. But you don't see movie-focused stores like MediaPlay or FYE anymore, or even what used to be a huge movie hub, which was Best Buy, completely got out of the game. Stores like that are just much rarer to come by. There's only one FYE left in Utah. It's inside of a shopping mall and is basically just a glorified Hot Topic at this point. The amount of local physical media stores has shrunk over the last 5 to 10 years, and with big brand stores leaving the game, big disc manufacturers like Sony have left the game, and Disney has limited their production as well as raised the price dramatically for the physical media they do put out. It's hard to say that physical media is thriving in the digital age. But physical media has always had obstacles, right? Historically, there's been many things that have come along and challenged physical media right in its face. But they've always overcome those obstacles, right? Right? Alright, my name's Dylan McKay, and I want to talk to you about physical media and its obstacles. But first, let's take a quick walk down memory lane. The year is 2015, and I remember my dad deciding that he wanted to upgrade our family plan to include, yes, I know, I was still on a family plan. I was 22 or something like that, alright? Anyway, he wanted to upgrade our family plan to include Apple Music. I know, Spotify users, come at me with your torches and pickaxes, but the truth is, I didn't want to do any of them. I mean, I remember when my dad said he was getting Apple Music, I was like, what? That's a betrayal! You're going digital? Come on, Dad! For some reason, it had always seemed like it was so easy for my dad to move on with new technology or new formats when it came to media. And for some reason, it was always so difficult for me. CDs were so significant to me, and physical media in general. It was a huge part of my childhood. Like, I would go peruse the rental shops with my dad and then go to used and secondhand movie and music stores. And that's how I discovered my love for film and for music, was flipping through those shelves, studying the cases, and learning about movies and music I'd never heard of. And this continued on through my late teens and early 20s. I would get off work and honestly, I would just go to an FYE or a Graywell, which is a local record shop of mine here in Utah, and I would just look through the different movies and music. FYE was a massive warehouse-style mega store, and 20 minutes away from that FYE was another FYE of similar size. You know, I'd pick up a movie and I'd hang on to it, considering whether or not it was going to make the cut when I'd show up to the checkout with my stack of movies and CDs to purchase. I'd go home and I'd watch new movies and listen to new music, and anything I didn't like, I would just return a week or two later and I would swap it out, resell it, and then I would get new used movies and music. There was some level of, I don't know, meditative quality to it all that I needed that kind of thing. It was my hangout spot. And then Apple Music. Yeah, we're bringing it back to Apple Music. I know you thought I was going on a tangent, but trust me, I have a point here. It's the summer of 2015, and my dad says we're doing Apple Music. And as much as I tried to resist, similar to Songs of Innocence, that shit just populates on your phone no matter what you want. So now I've got Apple Music. And then I remember one day, an album by one of my favorite musicians, Mason Jennings, was just released, and my CD pre-order hadn't come into my local music shop yet. So I decided, I'll see if it's on Apple Music. Sure enough, it was right there waiting for me. I hit play, I listened to the album in my car, and I was demoralized. Not by the music, obviously, by my actions. And sadly, persuaded by the absolute convenience of this blessed device. I mean, Bluetooth was already everywhere for me. In my car, my home, my speakers, my computer had Apple Music. I could get this music anywhere, instantly, and I didn't even have to pay anything for it. Except for like $4.99 a month, or whatever the hell, which I probably didn't even contribute when my dad had us on the plan. Besides the point, I immediately had access to everything. It instantaneously replaced the format. Hell, it even replaced iTunes altogether. I mean, the blood, sweat, and tears that I had put into my iTunes library over the years, uploading CDs so that I could transfer them to my also totally useless iPod. Times were changing, as Bob Dylan might say, and I was changing with them. And slowly, in the background, physical media shelves were getting smaller. FYEs were closing down, and Netflix, HBO Max, Amazon Prime all became more reliable streaming services for movies for me. I started to become more comfortable with formats becoming digital. What once was a treasured collection of movies of mine became stored in boxes, and I purchased less and less Blu-rays as the years went on until I purchased them no more. Because I would just find something to stream instead. The age of physical media was bleak, and a little hole inside of me started to develop. An activity that I once used to cherish, I couldn't find joy in anymore. Until something small started to become a trend again. And the local music shop that I would frequent, a section of it that used to be this big, was suddenly growing and becoming the primary focus of these shops. And in 2016, I finally found something glorious that would fill that void, that would allow me to re-pick up these poor spending habits and sink my money into something else I could collect and display on my shelf. And that was vinyl records. They, in a way, saved me. I realize that sounds overdramatic, but I found a purpose in having physical media again, and that meant something to me. Superior sound quality, sure, but the process of actually sitting down with a record, pulling out that disc, laying the stylus down, sitting back and engaging with a piece of music. It was everything I could have dreamed and asked for that I didn't think that I wanted or needed. You don't skip songs, there's no shuffle, you flip the disc every 20 minutes or so. It reinforced this idea that you listen to an album as an album. I would sit down and listen to a full album. I don't think I had ever done that, whether it was on CD or Bluetooth. Like, those things allowed me to multitask. Vinyl records, they don't. You don't multitask. You put it on, well, I mean, I guess you could clean the house or something, but you're kind of choosing to engage with something specific. You put it on in that room and you're listening to that album. And the process of that got me to appreciate the creative intent of one's artistry. CDs had really kind of made their way out and were beginning to become discontinued, and vinyl records made their way in as the new kind of mainstream way to collect and purchase music. And over the course of the next 4 or 5 years, I built a pretty sizable record collection, and I had a lot of fun doing it. It gave me that same joy of being able to stop by a record store again and look through physical media. It filled that void for me. Who would have thought an archaic thing such as vinyl records would make its way back to the masses and become the most popular way to purchase music physically again, to the point where they're selling it inside of Targets and Walmarts and Best Buys. Even in today's climate where they're not even selling movies anymore, they still sell vinyl records. Which brings me back to movies. Let's skip over the 2020s where vinyl record prices completely climbed and skyrocketed, and brick and mortar stores started to fall apart and close, and the entire US economy just crumbled and fell. Okay, we're caught up to 2025. Netflix and other streaming platforms had made life so much easier to stream movies. And Apple TV and Amazon allowed people to purchase movies digitally if they weren't available to stream. It became much and much less common for people to buy physical media. Thus, at Walmarts, there were less of our bargain bins. And honestly, even for myself, the value of owning a Blu-ray had pretty much dropped off completely. Over the last decade, my loyalty to Blu-rays completely died, and I sold most of the Blu-rays I had for pennies on the dollar, because they weren't really worth anything. Movies just didn't hold their value. They really only took up space. Coming from the guy with 8 cubbies worth of vinyl records behind me. Okay, Netflix, let's see if I can find the classic Jamie Presley-led 2006 video game adaptation of Dead or Alive, DOA. Okay, not on Netflix, HBO Max, Peacock, Paramount Plus, Amazon. Do you have a subscription to Hulu Premium? Cool. Hulu password and fuck. Okay, backskip. Fuck. Okay, so none of them have it. All right, we'll just go to eBay. We'll have to wait a few days. $115. Okay. Ordered. Yep, just as good as I remembered. But what the hell? When did Blu-rays become so expensive? Are you telling me the boxes of Blu-rays that I've sold could have been worth as much as this? I could have sold it for $48? DVDs and Blu-rays were always low in value. They were only like $1 or $2 in the resale or aftermarket. Maybe if you want to go through the trouble of selling them on eBay, you could sell them for like $4 or $5, maybe $8. But come on, $50 is like the cheapest you can find this thing. Although, you should watch this movie. Okay, so long gone are the days of cheap Blu-rays, but also long gone are the days of Netflix being $7.99 ad-free and having a wide selection of movies. Now you have to pay $17.99 for the ad-free version, and its movie selection is completely watered down and distributed between about 8 or 9 other streaming services, because those services have the rights to whatever movie it is that they're showing. So now I just Google whether or not a movie I want to watch is even on any streaming service, because it's easier than flipping through every single one of my streaming services and searching for that movie. And most of the time when I Google it, the movie I want to watch isn't available on any streaming service. And yeah, you might be saying to yourself, Dylan, it's because you're trying to watch 2006 schlock like DOA. Yes, fair. That is fair. But I try to watch other stuff too when it's not always available. And when you look at the Blu-rays on eBay or Amazon, they're not as cheap as they used to be. You're not going on there and finding stuff for $3.99 or $7.99. In most cases, you're going to be finding them anywhere between $15 or $20 or having a markup like DOA did because they just stopped printing them. And that's actually been the case for a lot of movies that I've looked. Whoa, hold up. What is this beauty? RoboCop. Look at that beautiful thing. Quietly, behind the scenes of physical media, quietly dying behind the scenes, a physical media renaissance was happening. A rebellion, if you will. Boutique label Blu-rays. Building legions of smaller but more curated and interesting niches of movie collecting. Honestly, I'd been collecting Criterion Collection Blu-rays since, 2011, but I decided to neglect them from this story for plot and for tension. But in all fairness, I'd never heard the term boutique label Blu-ray until maybe 2020. But yes, Criterion Collection are considered boutique label Blu-rays. They're a brand that's been curating classic and foreign films since the 80s, so they've been around for a long time in the game. And they are considered a staple, or maybe the head of boutique label Blu-rays. I have an entire video on my channel that you can go watch about the Criterion Collection if you want to learn a little bit more about them. Also, pretty much my entire channel is also about the Criterion Collection, so there's that. But other labels like Arrow Video, whom did this beautiful edition of RoboCop, or Shout Factory, Scream Factory, Kino Lorber, or Vinegar Syndrome, these brands started putting out collector's editions of films like Roadhouse, or Waterworld, or the Friday the 13th collection. Things that are kind of considered retro that you might find in like an 80s or 90s video rental store, or really even just on store shelves like, over a decade ago. And admittedly, the primary audience for most of these labels is going to be in the niche. It's camp or culty or really cinephile-focused films like Criterion Collection. These boutique labels offer a solution for finding certain films that have been difficult to get on streaming services, with huge emphasis on giving the best restoration of the film possible, and in many cases doing this from the transfers of the original film negatives supervised by the director themselves, loaded with bonus features and collector's items. They put together a nice collector package that can be displayed on your shelf nicely. The attention to detail is what makes these such premium editions. So, how did all this happen? Well, the intent of these boutique labels really started out as a way to preserve film or to fill in the gaps, things that weren't necessarily represented on physical media. But that mission is expanding as of recent, as other mainstream distributors are backing out of the physical media game. It's giving opportunity to these labels to get and secure bigger titles that people are going to actually buy. So basically, the death of physical media in stores and at home allowed for the resurrection of physical media in a more powerful form. Essentially, this is the second coming, and just like vinyl records, these movies had superior sound and vision. Boutique labels are essentially the vinyl record of movies. There's a reason to buy them again. Though the target audience is shifting a bit, I still don't think your average consumer that can't find a movie on their streaming service is going to go out of their way to buy one of these editions. But the number of people that are growing tired of switching between streaming platforms or not remembering where they bought their digital edition of a movie, or hell, not remembering their password and how to log in, now that people are juggling 9 to 10 streaming platforms to get their movies, people are starting to have an interest in physical media again. And when they're ready, physical media is waiting for them. And as a bonus, some physical retailers have actually made adjustments to account for all of this. For instance, Walmart got back into the physical media game strong in 2025 by targeting a niche audience who like to collect steelbook editions. They dedicated an entire display in their physical media sections at all Walmarts to include these. And then you have Barnes & Noble, who notoriously are one of the most overpriced or expensive places to buy movies, but they do 2 sales every year on their Criterion collection where it's 50% off. What they've done in 2025 is add additional 50% off sales every single month that focus on a different boutique label or even some normal labels like Paramount. The last time I was in a Barnes & Noble, I actually saw boutique labels I was completely unfamiliar with because there are newer boutique labels coming every year, and Barnes & Noble is starting to offer more and more of these sales, which I think is really freaking cool. So in conclusion, buying movies is fun again, and buying music is fun again. So the next time you're afraid of your favorite thing disappearing, it probably is. But we are cyclical beings, and everything makes its way back around. Just like music went through its journey and came back in the form of vinyl records, movies are going through a similar journey and are coming back in the form of boutique label physical media. I'm still waiting on DOA to make its way back around, because that is a masterpiece that no one talks about, and is primed for a boutique release if someone would just pick it up. But remember, I don't have to be afraid, because everything makes its way back around. And DOA will find a way back to the populace and into everyone's hearts at home. It's just a matter of time. Now look, I still stream movies, I still stream music, and that's not gonna change. But in a world that sometimes feels too digital and too in my face with automated trailers and skip this ad and skip the credits if I don't hit the countdown timer and algorithms up my ass, it's nice to use my real life fingers to grab a real life movie case and put my real life disc in my real life Blu-ray player and engage with a medium of my own desire. Anyway, life's cheery, right? We got physical media back on the come up. Thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments below if you like videos like this and I can make more of them. Also, follow me on Letterboxd if you guys want to see my latest movie reviews. But let's get a conversation going in the comments. What are your favorite boutique labels? What are some of your favorite vinyl records? And we'll catch you guys in the next video. Like, subscribe, love ya. Whoosh.